There she is. Okay. There we go. Thank you for bearing with us for a moment. We've been having a little technical issue, but we are resolved, I believe, unless Rebecca tell me to stop. But welcome to our last session of the day, our lightning talk, our ARPA lightning talks. We're thrilled to have several guests with us here today. So just a little background information about these ARPA grants. So the Institution of Museum and Library Services received money from the American Rescue Plan. And these grants were programmed to support museum and library services in addressing community needs created or exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic and assisting with their recovery. So these funds were then distributed to the state libraries in all 50 states. And New York State Library decided to distribute this money to the libraries and the museums throughout the state through the 3 R's councils. So CLRC received a total of $380,000 to be distributed as $41,000 to support library and museum partnerships, about $56,000 to be distributed to the school library systems, otherwise known as the BOCES systems. And that was to support electronic collections for their students. And then $282,000 was at our disposal to support digital inclusion projects. So CLRC decided, instead of implementing projects ourselves, to offer these funds to our member libraries and museums. So we sent out applications. There's a lot of rules and regulations that come with money from IMLS and from the state library and New York State. So we had to hold in an application process. And at first we were concerned that we weren't going to have enough applications to cover the $282,000, but we were greatly surprised and we received many wonderful projects that met the guidelines set forth by IMLS and the state. So a lot of these met our grant criteria. So all the projects could either continue, enhance, or expand existing programs and services, or launch new ones to address emergent needs and unexpected hardships. So I'm happy to have here with us today several people who have embarked on some new and adventurous projects, and they are going to talk to us and describe them a little bit. We possibly should have some time for some questions. So if you do have some questions, please put them in the Q&A. And without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Rob Sporing, and we'll give him a second that he can load his slides if he is using them.
Okay.
And I will ask the presenters to introduce themselves.
All right. Yeah, I have a slide for that because you told me I had to do it. So I'm not used to doing presentations on Zoom and things like that. So Mark, I'm going to need you to heckle me through this.
Okay.
And let me get this going. All right.
There you go. You're good.
We're good. All right. All right. So I'm Rob Sporing. I'm the Assistant Director of the Mid-York Library System. I've been here for about 1.5 years. Before that, I was a library director down in Nassau County, Long Island. I was at the library for around 20 years before coming up here. I take care of the IT, the cataloging, and the lending departments here at Mid-York. And just in case anyone's interested, I'm into board games, Star Wars, and I also enjoy some long walks on the beach. So the smart lockers. So why did we decide to go with them? So Mid-York serves a large 3-county region. We have Madison County, Oneida County, and Herkimer County. The entire service population for Mid-York is around 360,000, but our libraries only serve about 290,000 of that. So that means that we have around 70,000 individuals that don't have local library services. So the point of this project is, and you'll notice that when I tell you the library locations, their lockers are currently at libraries that are serving districts, but the goal of this is, if these lockers were to actually work, would be to put them into remote locations. We have a lot of rural libraries, a lot of rural locations that aren't served. So we really wanted to get these lockers into those areas that they may not have internet access. So we would be able to provide that to them through these lockers as well. The lockers, even if an area does not have, in either a fiber or a cable drop in the area, we can still use these lockers through cell towers. So we also have a lot of our libraries that do serve, they have limited hours. We have libraries that are only open 15 to 20 hours a week that are serving low populations. And with people with evening jobs, they may not be able to get to the library between 2 and 5 o'clock if that's all their hours are open. So the lockers. So we were able with the ARPA funding with CLRC, we were able to put in 3 lockers. So we have them at the Kirkland Town Library in Clinton, the Sullivan Free Library in Chittenango, and the New Hartford Public Library. These lockers, they're accessible 24 hours a day. They're fully automated, so there's no staff integration after the items are put into them. So the patrons are able to come directly up to them, scan their library cards, the lockers pop open, and they can retrieve their items and close them. They have lighting. If you can see in the center here where we have a screen, there's a little sensor there. As soon as someone walks up to it, there's LED lights that come on and light the surrounding area. They're fully weather resistant. You'll see the one on the left and the one on the right. They have full rain covers that come out about 3 feet from the lockers themselves. They are good down to temperatures of around -20 degrees. They're rain resistant. They have rain drips on every single locker. So if anything were to try to come down, it all gets put through the rain drips and goes right through the locker system. So the lockers have various sizes. So basically there's 2 different types of units. They have a control unit and then they have an expansion unit. So at all of our locations, we have 1 control unit and we have 1 expansion unit. So those all have various size lockers. So they have large, medium, and small. We could extend further. So if any of our locations, if this really takes off and becomes popular, we can always add on more expansion units down the road. Right now we have around, I believe it's 39 lockers at each of the locations, but we can always add more expansion units on in the future. And all it is plug and play. We plug it in, boom, the computer basically finds the extra lockers and we can utilize them. The larger lockers are large enough that we can actually put decent sized bins into them. So even if someone wants to request a kit, a laptop, a projector, depending on what the libraries are circulating, we could fit all that into these lockers. So how are we actually doing this? So in our ILS, we serve 43 different libraries, and we have 45 locations. So all of those are in our catalog. So it became an extremely long list to deal with by doing it by pickup location. So what we did is we worked with Siny, Cersei Dynex, and we have, when someone's placing a hold, we have 2 radio boxes that they're able to check. And if they pick the pickup locker, then they are given the choice of picking one of the 3 locker locations. Here at Mid-York, we don't limit where people can pick up their items. So this is open to anyone within the system that has a Mid-York library card. After that, it's basically the same process as any other item. At that point, a library is going to pick up that item. It's going to come up on their hold list, and they're going to send it out into transit. The way that the lockers work is that they're a separate location from the library. So let's say New Hartford, they have an actual library location, and then they have a locker location. So our staff here at Mid-York know that whenever they see something that's supposed to go to a locker for New Hartford, they're going to send it to the New Hartford library. When those items are received at the New Hartford Library, they're going to say locker on them. Even if a staff member tries to make it available for their library hold shelf, since it's a separate location, it's not even going to allow them to do that. It wants to go to the locker. So at that point, and the staff member knows that it's going to be going to a locker, they're going to log into the Biblioteca software, who's the provider of these, the manufacturer of these lockers. And they are going to assign a patron to a specific locker. Once they assign a patron to a locker, they can put as many items into the single locker that they'd like. So most items are going to go into the smaller lockers. The smaller lockers, they can actually take 4, 5, 6 items in them, regular size books. They can usually even fit most oversized items. So when someone comes to pick up an item, it's going to show them all the items in that locker, and they have to take all of them at that point. After the staff assigns them to the lockers, that's when they're actually going to go outside to the lockers, and they're going to place them into the assigned lockers. So there's kind of 2-step process to this. There's the inside of actually assigning it to the lockers, and then there's the second step of actually going outside and placing them in. You can do it at the locker itself, but we've been finding it that it's easier to do it in a 2-step process. So then we have the patron experience. So once that those items are placed into the locker, the way that we have our locker location set up is that within the hour, the patron is automatically going to get an email or a text message. Unless they prefer phone call, then they'll still get the regular phone call. But within the hour, they're going to get an HTML hold pickup notice that's customized to each one of our libraries. And they're also going to get an SMS notice that's letting them know that the item is available and it's at their outdoor locker. And usually we try to put where the locker is located at the facility. Before this, we were only doing these notices basically once a day. It was usually in the evening around 7 to 8 p.m. But now with the lockers, we found that people are really going to want to get their items. If you're in town, if you live, a couple miles outside, you may not be going into town very frequently. So we wanted to make sure that people are getting notified as quickly as possible that their items were going to be available. At that point, then they would then come into the locker. So this is typically the default setup of what it's going to look like. You can do 3 things while you're at the locker, and we can also disable some of these. So it's either you can pick up the item directly at the locker. You can click the button there that says reservation collection, or all you have to do is scan your library card at this point. You can click the account button and you can actually see your outstanding holds, any fines or fees that you might have on your account, or all your checked out items. Or if you want, you can renew an item right at the locker if a library decides to do that. So you can click on that, and then you can actually just scan the item in, and it would renew it right at the locker for you. All these modes, they would print, they don't print receipts because they're external, and the receipt printers can't go down to the temperatures that we need them to go down in Central New York. So all receipts are emailed to the patrons. At the end of checkout, it'll ask them if they want a receipt. If they decide that they just walked away at that point, it will defaultly just email them a receipt anyway. And then basically the locker just pops open and they can retrieve their items. Sometimes, depending on a patron, if they have more than items that can fit in one locker and they have 2 lockers, it will pop open both of the lockers that are designated to that patron. All right, so the stats right now. So we've only got these really up and running in August. And so far we've had over 300 users utilizing the 3 lockers as of right now. We have had a little bit of issues and things like that. We're one of the first locations in the country to receive these lockers. We were the first one to place an order, as far as I'm aware. The only other one that there is currently, I think it's Bayville on Long Island, that had put one in. They were the beta testing site. I know since we've put them in, there are a few other locations that have purchased them from Biblioteca. But so we've been working out some kinks. It's not been smooth sailing. And the other portion of this project is that you can see in the right-hand picture there is that we are placing external wireless access points onto all of these lockers. Like I said, this is a beta program, so we're hoping that if this really takes off, we want to put these into really remote rural locations. And the most important thing with us was that we were going to be able to really blast out Wi-Fi as far as possible. So the second portion of this is that we'd like to start a Mid-York Wi-Fi system throughout all of our libraries and including these lockers, which means we would just have one wireless network for our patrons to connect to everywhere they go. And we would also like to partner with community organizations, community groups, and food banks, and various organizations, so that when people are walking around in town or they go to the laundromat, their phones could automatically connect to the library's network. And so they don't have to just go to the library anymore to receive wireless access, especially when we start putting them into these rural locations. And then also, they won't have to be connected to numerous networks all the time. Since we have 45 locations, we're thinking that, when you walk into Little Falls or you go into Utica, we'd like to have it so that you're connecting to one single network when you go to them. So, and that's all I got, Mark. If there's any questions.
I don't see any questions right now, Travis, but there may be, so.
There is one in the chat that came
There
in.
is one in the chat. I'm sorry, I didn't see that come in. Have you had patrons not pick up an item? If so, is the library aware the item is still in the locker?
Yes, so there is a report in our, not sure if you could see it through my last slides. Let me see if I can go back. Okay, so in this right-hand picture here, which is the software, there's an expired confirmations allocations and failed collections. So those two, you click on them and it actually gives you a list of any of the items that have been sitting in there for, say, longer than 7 days, depending on what your system is set to. So you can click on that, and then the staff members at the library can then go to the lockers and they can collect the items that, people just didn't pick up, or they could maybe at day 3 or 4, they might want to reach out again. Our system automatically does, sends another pickup notice after 3 days, and then we do another one after 6 days. So we are doing that where they are getting numerous emails. But yeah, there is that. And there's also failed collections. So failed collections could be someone comes to the locker, maybe they had too many fines on their account, and then the system wouldn't allow them to check it out. Those are also noted by the different color lockers that are on here. The reds mean that those lockers are actually disabled, and currently we disable all the lower lockers and the higher up lockers just in case of someone comes in with an ADA compliancy issue. We haven't found a great way of allowing someone to say to us that they need an ADA compliant locker, or something that we're thinking about and working on. But yeah, so right now we have those lower lockers turned off. The orange lockers on here mean that they've been scheduled to get something in them, but the item hasn't actually been put into them yet. The nice thing about the system too is that since it works through a SIP connection with our ILS, is that the patrons aren't actually notified until the item is actually in the locker. So when our staff member goes out to the locker and they place an item into it, they don't get contacted until after that door closes. When that door closes, the locker actually receives it as a transit. So up until the time where the staff member is putting it into the locker, that item is always still in transit. When the door closes, boom, that's when our hold notices go out to the patrons.
We also have another question here. Do the lockers replace something like curbside or complement? Just curious.
I would say this would replace it depending on your library. Some libraries, they have pickup windows where you can drive up to them. If you don't have a service like that, I would say this would most likely replace it. The only difference is, like right now, since they're so new and the software can be a little finicky, is that sometimes there are some failed collections from the locker, and like that you wouldn't typically see with curbside. We're hoping in the future that we're going to be able to program them also for vending mode, so that basically we would be able to put laptops and hotspots and all various different things into, say, maybe 20 of the lockers. And patrons would be able to come up to the lockers. Maybe it's 11 o'clock at night and they need to pay their bills. They would be able to come up, see, oh, there's a laptop in locker 18. I'm going to borrow that, scan their card, opens up, lends them the laptop that they can then use on the Wi-Fi that's built onto the locker unit now.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you so much. That was extremely informative. Appreciate all your work on that project.
Sure.
So,
Anyone has any questions, my email is on the bottom of this last slide here. So feel free to reach out.
and you can find him at the Mid-York headquarters.
No, you can't. Don't tell them
Just
that.
put it into the. Thank you, Rob. So up
Sure.
next is Deanna.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Rob, that was very interesting. I see a lot of potential with that for even like to extend your service area in a region that we are in. So I'm very excited to talk to everybody today about our tech van. So we call it our LPL to go mobile tech van. Let me see if I can get this going. There we go. So my name is Deanna McGregor, and I work here at Liverpool Public Library, and we are part of the Onondaga County Public Library System. And I just want to give a little shout out to Maggie Foster. I'm not sure if she's on or not, but Maggie's actually the one that initiated the grant and did a lot of the ordering. And I've kind of come in at the middle and really had the fun part and got to use some of the things that we ordered. So I just wanted to give her a little shout out. So why did we decide to go with ramping up our tech van? So we, as part of our strategic plan, is obviously to increase education in the community and connect community members. And so we thought by doing this, we would be able to offer our library services in out of building settings. So basically now our van, and I'll show pictures of it a bit more, is fully capable of being a library anywhere we go. We can check out books, we can offer printing. It's just, we're just a little library in a van. It's really been great. Since our van has mobile, it has internet, it has a wireless router, and we unlock it so anybody can use it. And so we can park it anywhere and people have access to the internet. And so we remove barriers that way. That helps us to reach underserved communities in our service area. We have been able to increase our partnership with local businesses because they really love to have the van stop by and pull up in the parking lot, and it definitely attracts attention, but it also gets the word out about the library as well by increasing our visibility. And we also have a lot of fun too. So let's not forget, we can provide a valuable service, but also make it fun for community members. So what is inside the van? So we already had a van. So, and we use the van to deliver materials and set up at various places. But now our van is really, like I said, enabled us to be a fully functioning library. So it has a mobile, it has a wireless router and a wireless antenna. So we had the antenna installed professionally because it actually attaches to part of the top of the van. So we had that professionally installed, and you can kind of see that's a picture of the router there with some of the wires coming out of it. And then in the background is our printer and scanner. And I've got a better picture of that here. So we have the printer scanner, and we also have a laptop so that talks, basically people send their print jobs to our laptop, and then we release the print job from there. to the printer. So do that. It came with part of the grant money paid for a solar powered generator. So you can see here, there's a plug going into that. That is our router being plugged in. So the generator it has all different types of plugs, USB. It can plug into the van. So we could power it up while we're driving around if we want, or you can get the solar panels. And so if you had a really long outreach thing, maybe a whole day, you could just keep power going to it. But the battery lasts a really, really long time. We've had it for a few months and we've only had to charge it once. So it lasts a very long time. Another part of the grant was some shelving for the van. So as you see up above where the printer and laptop are located, that is a shelf that folds up and down. So in that picture, it's down, but you can also put it up so that when you're driving around, you can fit larger items in the van if you need to. And then down below where the iPads are, you can kind of see, so we position the iPads there, but that also is big enough to hold bins of things. So if you have, sometimes for outreach, we'll bring items to pass out. So we'll put bins in there. And then below that, you can see some other shelving. So we have our program guides in there. Sometimes if we're going to schools or parks, we'll bring some educational toys for the kids to play with. So the shelving has been real handy. So our technology, so in addition to the things I just mentioned, it also came with some technology interactive elements. So one of the things that we purchased with the grant money is a Cricut, and probably a lot of you are familiar with Cricut, but it can cut all sorts of really cool things. So to try it out, because not everybody was familiar with the technology, we actually had a day where the staff could bring in t-shirts, and then we used the Cricut to cut out iron-on transfers, which you can see there. And so it gave the staff a chance to see what the Cricut was about, and then we also had shirts we could wear for the summer to promote the library. So iron-on transfers is one thing that Cricut can do. Another thing that we're planning to do, we have a couple of businesses that we're going to for Veterans Day week, and we're going to be making cards with the Cricut using cardstock and also vinyl clings. And you can see those down at the bottom there. So we're very excited about that. The Cricut is still kind of new technology to some of us, so still exploring options for taking it places. And we have some other ideas that I'll show you later on. So one low-tech technology that some of you may already have in your library is a button maker. And we really find the button maker is just a wonderful, welcoming, fun thing that is not intimidating, but yet it's intriguing. So for example, for Banned Book Week, we brought this to a couple of different business locations, and patrons could choose which type of button they wanted to make for banned books. So you can see a couple examples down there, and we threw a vote one in there. We did that for helping for voter registration. So the button maker, low tech, super easy, and a lot of fun. Another one that is very new to us, and we have our teen librarians been working with this a lot, the Nintendo Labo Toy-Con. And you can see in the picture there, it's basically like heavy duty cardboard, but you make all these interesting things that you can put your Nintendo Switch into. And so the Toy-Con and the Nintendo Switch were paid for with the ARPA grant. And our librarian has put those together, and you can see that middle picture is me, and I am fishing. And so the Switch is actually in this, display thing, and I'm holding a fishing rod that was created with the Toy-Con. And it actually gives you the sensation that a fish is pulling on the rod. I'm not quite sure how it all works, but it's really cool. And then down below that, we have Tulip, who is our mascot, also fishing. And then in the larger picture is a couple of teens, and each one of those is a switch there. You can see there's a red one and a blue one, and they are sumo wrestling. And again, it's just cardboard, but the vibration from the switch with their controlling up there on the table makes them bump into each other. And so that's just one thing. So again, we're looking forward to taking this on the road. We have not actually taken the switch on the road yet, simply because it is a little delicate. So we want to make sure we're bringing it to the right place. But it has a lot of potential. Another element for technology included in the grant was our digital media lab. This has been a lot of fun. So it comes with a portable green screen. Our kit that we have has a video camera, which also takes still pictures, but you could use a phone, really anything that takes pictures. We have the video because we're planning to do some oral history projects with it as well. Maybe at some of our senior living facilities that we have relationships with. And other things we used for what I've shown here is we just picked out some backgrounds in Canva and a photo editing software of your choice. But you can see here the Banned Books Week, we partnered with Barnes and Noble. And so we had patrons take their picture in front of the green screen, and then they could pick which banned book they would like as a background. So you can see the finished product there with Harry Potter. Over on the right was our back to homeschool party that we had. And so one of the things that homeschoolers don't get is back to school photos, you know, the official ones. So we thought, hey, we'll do those. So we had the kids pose in front of the green screen, which you can see there, and then they could pick their background of choice. We gave them, I think, about 10 different choices. So you can see little Mason there with maps as a background. And then below that is our fall family photos, and that we're doing all over. This one happened to be at a parking lot at an event with a couple of other libraries. So again, we use the green screen, and you can see some of the background examples that the families could choose. But here's a dad and his son just after a soccer game, and they chose a nice fall image there. So that's been a lot of fun. So where can you go with this technology van? So places that we go to food pantries. We have a couple of different food pantries in our service area. So we go there monthly, and that way patrons can expect us to be there. We have the free Wi-Fi. We offer tech help. So if they needed, again, printing, or if they needed just help with getting on the internet, we bring our iPads and our laptop if they need that. Local businesses, again, just kind of increasing our visibility, but also helping local businesses connect with community members as well. And you can kind of see Cindy in the bottom left there. That's at Barnes and Noble. And that's where we went for banned books. Homeschool co-ops, they love the van. And so they'll use traditional services. The picture down on the bottom right there is at a homeschool co-op, and they checked out a ton of books. And you can also see we have some benches that we set out with some tables. Those we previously had, they weren't part of the grant, but so we're just kind of adding to just really the library being anywhere we pop up. Laundromats are another good place. We are working on partnering with some laundromats. Senior living, we have a relationship with 4 different senior living facilities, and we go there monthly. So some of this technology we're going to be using with the seniors. Town and county parks, some successful places we popped up this summer would be where swim lessons were offered, because families are there waiting while swim lessons are going on. So we were successful at that. We have Onondaga County Lake Park right near our library. So that's a very diverse and popular park. So we've been down there. apartment complexes. So we have some apartment complexes where internet connectivity may be a little spotty for people. So if we park our van, they know that that's at least, you know, a way they can connect for a few hours anyway. So these are some ways that we promote our Library to Go tech van. You can see up at the top right, that's an example of a lawn sign we have. So when we go someplace, we'll pop up a few of these lawn signs so they know, you know, what's happening. Also, obviously on our social medias, we'll put up information. Down in the bottom left, that's just a little snip from one of our program guides. And then on the bottom right, we can make flyers and give those to businesses or organizations where we're going to be so they can advertise. They can just put a flyer up. And so that's pretty much how we promote our tech van. And then since it's the end of the day, I just wanted to leave you with a couple of very funny things. So of course, in my presentation, I put the pictures in there where everything was working well and, you know, we had successful outreach, but that's not always the case because as you know, when you're doing outreach, sometimes there's wind, rain, thunder, heat. So here we are at Barnes and Noble. And originally we were set up on the sidewalk and it was wonderful. And our green screen was hanging down and people could sit there. But then we had a major storm blow in and thunder and the green screen was just soaking up water. So it was not overly funny at the time, but funny now. And fortunately it worked out great. Barnes and Noble let us come in and the patrons, of course, then would actually come and see us because when it's raining, they don't want to stop to see you. So that was a funny one. Here we are again at one of our food pantries and we were all set up, but then it started raining and then the awning wasn't cooperating. So we're barely holding it together there. And then I'm not sure if you noticed in the other picture, but this one, sometimes when you're doing outreach, you'll get some very strange looks. And there's a customer at Barnes & Noble wondering what in the world are these people doing? So you can have some fun with outreach too. So that is our tech van. Do we have any questions? Let's see what we got here. I'm going to stop sharing.
I am not seeing any right now, Deanna, but if we do, we can always come back to you if you don't mind hanging out. And otherwise, I think we will go on to Rene from the OCPL Central Library.
Okay.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Rene Battelle, and I am the manager at the Central Library in downtown Syracuse, which is also a member of the Onondaga County Public Library System. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a telehealth booth that we set up here at the library using these ARPA funds from CLRC. Okay. So, oops, I wound up on the wrong slide here. Sorry about that. Okay. So the idea to do this booth first came up towards the end of 2021. And at the time, I didn't really know much about telemedicine booths or wasn't aware of any other libraries doing it. So I asked for more information and we got the ball rolling to see if it was something that would be a good fit for us. And we installed it in the spring of 2022. So for me, the pandemic really highlighted an emerging need that patrons have for services if they're doing a Zoom job interview or telemedicine or they're meeting with their lawyer and they may not have the technology or the internet or even just a private space to do these things. So I figured it would be a good fit for us down here. Our library is 3 floors, so I ultimately decided to put it up on the 3rd floor. The 1st floor gets more traffic and is busier, but the 3rd floor we already had a few glassed-in study rooms and it's quieter up there, and I just figured privacy booth might work better up there. You can see on the screen here, this is the type of booth that we chose. You can get them installed with the furniture, which I almost was going to do, but then it wouldn't have made it handicap accessible. So ultimately, I just put like a small table and a couple of stools in there that we had in another room in the library, and they can easily be moved out if someone needs wheelchair accessibility. So the booth is soundproof, and we did go in there and shout and test it, and it is effectively soundproof. It's got a privacy screen on it, so you can't see inside, although people in the booth can see outside. There's a couple of switches in there. It's got lights and a cooling fan, and it also has outlet and USB access. And we put some basic instructions just for using things like Zoom and GoToMeeting, and our wireless password on the table in there. So installation day, prior to installation, they sent me a few questions, maybe 5 or 6 easy questions about elevator access and whether we needed an insurance certificate. And then after that, we were ready to go. And I was kind of worried. I was worried that something would go wrong, but it was probably the smoothest installation I've ever seen. They got it up on our elevator just fine. It took less time than they had thought it would take to install it. And there seemed to be no issues at all. And the guys stuck around just to make sure that the power was working and the Wi-Fi and everything. So that's what it looks like right now. And you can see on the side there, we have put just a little information about what it is and like a short rule sheet and how the booth can be used. Basically, we just asked patrons to follow our regular meeting room procedures. We didn't really modify them too much for the booth. We also have a laptop that's barcoded, so patrons can check that out with their library card for use in that booth. And then the first time they use the booth, we ask them to sign a quick usage agreement. And then we keep that on file. And then if they come back and use it again, they don't have to sign it twice. And you can see on the left side there, this is the basic rule sheet that we put up and some suggestions of how they might use the booth. And we also have this, I did a Facebook post and we have it on our website, and we did a whole sort of grand opening thing. But to date, we haven't had like a ton of use just yet. It's kind of slowly getting started, but we do have a few patrons every week who use it. And there's some patrons who have come back multiple times. Our best advertisement really is our staff. They are already familiar with the other meeting rooms that we have and the policies. And when patrons come in, we don't ask for, too many details about what type of meeting they need to do, but we do try to get a sense of what they need a meeting space for. And so a lot of times staff can say, oh, did you know we have this telehealth booth? This might be a better option for you because our other meeting rooms up there are totally glass front, so you can see inside. And whereas this booth, of course, with the privacy screen on it, you can't see inside. So a few tips if libraries are thinking of doing this. I realized when the first patron signed up for it that we needed some sort of system that would let us know there's somebody in there, just in case, like if there's a fire drill or something, patron who's in there is not going to be able to hear that. So I just made a very simple yellow tag that says booth occupied. We put it on the door handle, and then staff know to check that booth, not only if there's something like a fire drill, but if a patron is using it at the end of the day and we're closing the library, staff know, don't forget to check in the booth and make sure that everybody is out. So another good tip is have a technology wish list. Right now, we just are using like a laptop and a mouse and a keyboard in there and just basic stuff. I was sort of waiting to see if patrons used it more for telemedicine. I thought maybe having a medical kit, like, something that has a blood pressure cuff and a temperature checker and stuff like that, that they might need to use in there. So far, we actually have not had any patrons use it for telemedicine. The main things they've used it for is Zoom job interviews. And we also have a couple of students in college who have used it to take tests or do presentations. So that's been interesting to see that, we sort of market it as telehealth, but people find, different ways to use it that are just as important. And the other tip I would say is definitely if you find community partners, you're going to be able to get the word out better. So we already have a partnership with Volunteer Lawyers Project and the Access to Justice program through the New York State court system. So they know that our booth is an option if somebody has to do like a Zoom court appointment. They can come and do that in our telehealth booth. We also have outreach partnerships with health organizations. So if they're doing like a vaccine clinic, for example, this is a great private space that they can take clients in. So that's just the quick version of what we've done here. My contact info is there in case anything occurs to you later, but of course, I'm happy to take questions now if you have any. And thank you so much.
Renee, thank you so much. And that was such an exciting project, and I'm glad I got to check them out and see them. So I'm not seeing any questions for you. Oh, okay. There, I can be on camera now. If not, you can get a hold of Renee at the OCPL Central New York Library OCPL Library. If anybody has any final comments or chat or questions, now's your chance to throw them in. If not, I'm going to sum up the day. I think Rebecca, stop me if you had some things to say, or pop on if you'd like, but otherwise I'd like to thank everybody for being with us today. Thank you to our three presenters. I'm so happy about these projects that were able to happen with money that we otherwise would not have, and I'm sure your institutions did not have this type of funding either. These were some large projects, and if you're curious about any of our other ARPA projects, please feel free to inquire with me or CLSC. Otherwise, I bid everybody adieu and thank you for being with us. And there we go. Thank you very much. And if you have any questions, and I'm sure Rebecca's put in some comments and evaluation sheets. So we appreciate that. As I said, this conference was built on comments from our membership. So we appreciate your feedback. And you can still check out those virtual posters, I think, for a day or two. So otherwise, thank you so much. And Rebecca, thank you so much. And I'm going to log out. And Rebecca, I'll leave it up to you.